joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
No problem. So what stood out to me when I was Googling you was your coming out story.
Okay.
I guess we both have very similar backgrounds. I'm adopted as well.
Okay.
So I know for me that coming out story was kind of like in reading yours, I was just like, this is resonating with me. So I kind of want to talk about that so that we can reach the new millennials who are having issues with coming out to their parents.
Yeah.
So let's start with what inspired you to come out to your mother?
So what inspired me actually to come out to my parents was that my mother kept harassing me about dating women. And when was I gonna get a girlfriend? And when was I gonna get married? And it just got to be so frustrating. I'm a person that lives my life authentically and live my truth in most aspects, all aspects. And it just started to get frustrating because I felt like I was lying. I felt like I wasn't being honest. And it literally was just getting on my nerves that I was having to kind of do the show and perform for my mother to make her feel comfortable about not wanting to deal with the fact that I was gay.
So what was your biggest fear when it was time to address her or approach her about it?
My biggest fear was that my parents would put me into like psychiatric treatment, really. And so my parents are super religious and both lawyers and just very kind of high society type people. So they're very active. My mother's, an AK, my father's a Kappa. They're in the Black Lawyers Association. My mother's in the Links. So it's also, I knew it was going to be a problem about how other people would deal with the fact that I was gay and less about us dealing with the fact that I was gay. So I did it on the phone, which, was a little bit of a cop-out, I would say, like if I look back at it. But my mother was super dramatic, and I knew that she was going to be really a lot. And so I chose to do it on the phone. I think if I had the opportunity to redo it, I would definitely have done it in person and just kind of thugged out the emotional drama of it all.
Do you think her reaction would have been the same if it was in person, or would it have been escalated?
I think my mother's reaction would have been escalated if I did it in person. As I said, she was very dramatic personality and fiery, and I think it would have been horrible, but it was horrible either way. But I do, in hindsight, feel like I might have robbed us all of an opportunity to work through it in person.
Now, you said that your father stated that he always knew. What was his reaction?
Literally, my father said, I always had a feeling. So it was tricky because I think that my father and I were very close. My father was like one of my best friends. So I think for him it was tricky because he wanted to console me as a friend and as his son, but also his wife was so upset about it. I think it put him in a very precarious situation because I think he wanted to be compassionate and understanding of his child, but also had to side with his wife and their values as a couple.
So at what point did the emotions de-escalate and you all were able to work through it?
So it took a while. Like that first week was really, really traumatic and horrible. My mother would just call and start screaming at me and reading Bible verses. And, and I would talk to my dad one-on-one, and he was just like, give her time, she's really upset. But it was my brother, as I stated in the Essence article, who really was the glue that challenged me to work through everything. So, I mean, it took months. It's funny because I don't even remember what time of the year it was. It's like all kind of a blank. But I remember the next time I went home, it was very icy. Everyone was kind of walking on pins and needles to not offend other people. I was so hurt that I barely wanted to go home. My mother was just upset. Yeah.
So did her response affect you outside of the home as far as your social life or the way you behaved or performed at work?
I definitely, the first week was like a mess at work. At the time, I was an assistant at Metropolitan Home magazine, and what was really, really a blessing was that they were like super pro LGBTQ. They had done HIV and AIDS fundraisers. They had featured same-sex couples within the magazine pages. And so I was really blessed that there was a fashion editor there named Newell Turner, who is now a big editor of, I believe, Traditional Home. And so he really took me under his wing because he had gone through his own coming out story. But like people at work were like coming to me and like giving me examples, like or giving me advice. They said, "Oh, you should go to PFLAG, or you should look at this organization, or this is my coming out story." So that was really, really helpful. Maybe a few of my friends had come out, but not many. So I was kind of like the first within my group of friends. But at work, yeah, I was a mess. Like I was literally, I mean, definitely the day after I was like crying, I was a mess. But they were very, very nurturing about it. So I was one of the founding editors at Vibe, and about half of the staff was LGBTQ. So there was always this gay/queer culture and kind of presence in the pages of the magazine. We always covered LGBTQ stories. So it was super inclusive, and it was multicultural. It wasn't just Black.
Okay.
So by the time I became editor-in-chief, I had worked my way up the ranks. I started as associate editor, I became style editor, fashion director, and then I became editor-in-chief. So at this point, I'm pretty well known in the industry. You know, the first cover that I ever styled was the Biggie and Faith cover of them in the car. So in hip hop and in music, I was out. Like I used to take my ex-husband to a lot of events with me, and in fact, a lot of people in the music industry hosted a wedding shower because we had domestic partnership.
Okay, yeah.
Marriage wasn't legal. So it was just a known thing. So by the time I became editor-in-chief, and I remember distinctly going through this in my head, there wasn't an opportunity where I could go back in the closet.
Right.
So my thing, it was a fear that I had, like, would I be beaten up? Would there be homophobic attacks on me because of being a Black gay man editing this hip hop magazine? But it was fine.
So you would say you never experienced homophobia in a
I experienced, you know what? It's like I experienced negativity, but I don't know so much if it was targeted in the beginning to me being gay. Like a lot of the internal kind of dialogue was, well, he's the fashion person, and now he's the editor-in-chief. I was like, I also have a master's in journalism from Columbia University and have written for Rolling Stone and the New York Times, but you forgot about that. So that part, it was more of that, like, so it felt, so, and maybe that feels like gay kind of, you know, drama.
Because he's in fashion, what does he know about editing an entire magazine?
Right, exactly. What does he know about hip hop?
Exactly.
So there was that underlying theme. And then there definitely was, because we were in competition with The Source and Double XL, they definitely put things out there like, oh, it's a gay magazine, and he's, you know, trying to make everything in hip hop gay. There was stuff like that, but the sales and the growth of the magazine and the awards spoke to kind of preparing and building something that was futuristic, right? So if I think about a Black future, we think of something that's inclusive. And so I was building that because there were a lot of LGBTQ people who work in music. And then this is a time of DL culture and closeted things, and HIV and AIDS rates rising, and a large growth with Black lesbian aggressive community and culture, and then trans community. So those things I made sure to put in the magazine, and there was definitely a little bit of backlash, but it wasn't, in terms of the actual hip hop culture, I can name 2 times that I had drama with people, and I handled it like a man.
So what would you say would be your most memorable moment while working at Vibe?
That's a great question. I think my most memorable moment working at Vibe was winning the National Magazine Award, because the National Magazine Awards are like the Oscars for magazine and digital publishing. And so for us to win, we beat out the New Yorker, Jane, Wired, and Gourmet magazines, and so we won for general excellence. So for a Black urban culture hip hop magazine to win was huge. It never happened. I think that Essence had probably won some awards, but never for general excellence. So it was a really big deal. I was very lucky. My mom was there, my grandmother was there, and I remember Susan Taylor coming up to me, and Ed Lewis from Essence, and Gayle King was there, and all these luminaries coming up. I remember in my speech saying that I was giving voice to the voiceless, And I think that has become a theme in my life and in my career. Like, how do you give voice to people that don't usually have a voice?